Hey everyone, it's Brett from Hope to Prosper, and I'm here at the Dana Point Blufftop Trail and walking with Bailey today. And today's subject is why I left the tech industry. Alright, I think you'll find it fun. Thanks for coming along. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about what's happening, what's going on in the tech industry, my career in technology, and why I left the industry, and I'm never going back. So I hope you find this interesting. So I worked in technology for 38 years, from way back in December of 1985 until February of 2023. And I was only 21 when I started in the industry, and I retired at 58, which is young, but it's old for the tech industry. And I worked as an IT manager for 26 years, and it was very rewarding in many ways. I had my own department. I had people who worked for me at times. Other times I did it myself. But it was a grind, and it was a lot of responsibility. If anything went wrong in the facility or anything went wrong on the network, I wasn't going home that night. I was there stuck until it was fixed. And then I was on call, 7x24, for 25 years. So getting those 4 a.m. texts and the calls from the airport and things like that, that was my life. So now I always have said, it was the best job in the world when everything was going smoothly. You'd look around, people are working away, the servers are humming, and everything's great. But when anything went wrong, it was the worst job. Like I said, you weren't going home till you had it fixed. And then people would start rushing into your office and calling on your phone and blowing up your phone if something went wrong, like a server went down or something like that. So that was my life in the tech industry. Let me talk next about how I knew I was done, right? And when I first left my last job, I was totally convinced that I was going to work part-time, maybe, doing some consulting or some project work, maybe some contract stuff. Honestly, at that point, like a year and a half ago, if I could have got 3-day work week with some insurance, I'd still be working. But that didn't happen. Everybody wants you to be on call, and so I wasn't doing that. And then I realized after I retired, a couple months after I retired, I had to look for a job for 6 months because I was unemployed for a while. But I just knew I was done, and I needed to do something new. That's what I really needed. So it wasn't like I was burned out or I was obsolete or I hated tech. I just needed a change of pace and a change of scenery. I accomplished everything I wanted in my tech career. And after 40 years, I just lost the passion, lost the interest. And that's how I knew I was done. And by the way, I quickly want to welcome all my new subscribers to my channel. I got a lot of new subscribers. Thank you for joining. And thank you for following along. So my name is Brett, and this channel is about early retirement, skills, and adventures. And if you have anything you want to know about, feel free to leave me a comment, and I'll see if I can cover it. So next, this is a fun subject. I want to talk about being the old tech guy, right? And man, it's tough being the old tech guy. I started when I was 21, so I was like the kid, And then by the time I was 58, I was no longer the kid. In fact, I was the old guy. And no matter how up-to-date you keep your skills or how cool you try to be, it's obvious, man. You're a dinosaur. You're the old person. So trying to explain to younger people like millennials and Gen Z, how I put my own clone together when I was in the 90s. And in the 80s, I worked for a company that made dot matrix printers. And in the 90s, I worked for a company here that made copier sorters. And, it was awesome working at the beginning of the tech boom, right? It was really exciting. But most office workers today, average office workers, younger ones, they don't remember anything before the internet. They can't imagine a computer with 2 floppies and green screens that's not connected to a network. Everybody now has everything, Wi-Fi, laptops, tablets. So anyways, you're definitely the old guy. You're a dinosaur. And I got an email. I have a buddy. His name's Al over at Quotes with T. And I got an email from him yesterday, and he was telling me about his neighbor. They're both tech workers, right? And older tech workers like me. And he was saying that like all his work stories are 20 years old. So every time he tells somebody something, they look at him like with the glazed eyes, like, what are you talking about? You know? And all his work phrases are old, like, you know, that's above my pay grade, or yeah, let's get the low hanging fruit. So anyways, whenever you guys reach this point in your career, it's time to start thinking about retiring. You know, you're definitely the dinosaur. You're getting obsolete, and it's time to think about something new. Let's talk about how things have changed in tech, right? You know, when I started, first of all, it was new and exciting, but then it was also really prestigious, you know, and tech was the thing to do. And I was watching some YouTube videos yesterday about all the recent tech layoffs. You know, they're laying off like 250,000 really bright tech workers. So the best and the brightest are getting laid off. So they're laying off like 250,000 tech workers a year, and that's starting to depress the salaries, right? And, you know, they're not laying off the cheap people. They're laying off like the Google people that make like $500,000 and stuff. And, you know, just a couple years ago, demand for tech workers was sky high. You know, I got a job in a month after I lost my other job. But now, then, there's lots of really talented and smart tech workers. They're out of work. They can't buy a job. And so, especially if you make six figures, trying to find a six-figure job right now in tech is tough. And before they were there all day. So anyways, this reminds me a lot of like the dot-com bust, you know, in the early 2000s. I was out of work for 6 months, and that was the first time in my career I'd ever been out of work. I worked for a startup. It failed. There were no jobs available. It took me 6 months till it kind of came back around. So here's what I've seen recently. Massive layoffs. We talked about that. Dropping salaries. And then there's AI disruption. You know, I think a lot of these people are being laid off, and management's thinking they're just going to replace them with AI. And that may or may not be true. I think it is, especially for programmers. If you were a .NET programmer, man, you could write your own ticket. And now I think code is going to be writing code. And then last, there's a loss of prestige in the tech industry. You know, just a short couple years ago, everybody was going to college to learn tech. And that was one of the best paying careers. And now I think that's gone now. So I know some of you, especially people who have labored or worked for lower wages, you know, working the skills and the trades, I know you're probably not feeling sorry for the pampered tech workers that make a lot of money. But, you know, I could tell you, I've walked in those shoes myself, and it's not always an easy job, especially working in IT. So let's wrap it up. So in conclusion, I just want to say that, man, I was really fortunate to work in the tech industry. And I got my dream job, and I got to do what I wanted for almost my whole career. You know, one day I was just sitting in class in college. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I was a business major, not a computer science major. And I took a programming class, and I just realized right then, man, I loved computers. I loved programming. I had very good skills in math and numbers and logic. And so it just came to me naturally. And that launched my career. I just decided I quit my union job, and I went into the career in the computer industry, and I never looked back. And there were some ups and downs, you know, 2 or 3 layoffs, a couple failed startups, you know, but I got to do what I love for almost 40 years, and I'm thankful for that. But then it was time to do something new, you know, time to turn the page, and I'm not looking back. Okay, done with our walk today. It was a short one. Wanted to go farther. I actually wanted to go on a big hike with Millie, but I couldn't find the trailhead, so I'll have to try that again. It's hard to find good hikes around here that take dogs. Anyways, I wish you all health, happiness, and prosperity in your lives. I hope you enjoyed this this little video, and we will see you next week on our next big adventure.